The most powerful lie in Seoul was about to shatter in front of 300 witnesses, and the woman holding the microphone had 9 years to decide if truth was worth dying for. Zainab Kalu pressed her thumb into the worn leather edge of her folder and told herself the same lie she'd been telling for 9 years. Silence keeps them safe. The Gangnam wedding hall glittered like a threat. Crystal chandeliers fractured light across marble floors, and everywhere she looked, men in black suits stood with their hands folded, watching. She shouldn't have taken this job. Morella had warned her. That name, Zainab, that's the name you run from. But certified court translators didn't get to be picky, not when rent was due and the twins needed new school shoes. Ms. Kalu, the event coordinator, smiled, but her eyes were cold. You'll be in the northeast alcove. Medical document verification. Very simple. Simple. Nothing about Han Jae-won had ever been simple. Zainab nodded, adjusting her blazer. Neutral, professional, invisible. She'd perfected the art of being overlooked, moving through Seoul's corridors like a shadow that knew how to translate pain into paperwork. 9 years of courtroom Korean, 9 years of making herself small enough to survive. The alcove was tucked behind a silk screen away from the main ceremony. A single table, 2 chairs, and a medical file stamped with a hospital seal she recognized immediately. Her breath caught. Seoul National University Hospital, Department of Reproductive Medicine, patient Han Jae-won. The same file she'd helped bury years ago, when she was just a struggling interpreter desperate enough to take cash jobs from men who didn't ask her name. The same file that had declared him medically infertile. The same lie that had protected him from succession wars, from family expectations, from ever having to acknowledge. You look pale. The coordinator's voice cut through her thoughts. Do you need water? No, I'm fine. She wasn't fine. Her hands were shaking as she opened the folder, and suddenly she was 23 again, standing in a cold hospital corridor, watching a doctor slide an envelope across a desk, while a voice behind her whispered, "Just translate it clean. No questions." She'd been hungry enough to comply, desperate enough to swallow her conscience. And 9 months later, she'd given birth to twins in a clinic in Itaewon, while Morella held her hand and promised the world would never know. But the world had a way of demanding answers. Ms. Kalu, a new voice, male, familiar enough to stop her heart. She looked up. Han Jae-won stood in the alcove entrance, and for the first time in 9 years, they occupied the same space. He was thinner than she remembered, his black suit perfectly tailored, his hair slicked back like armor. His face showed nothing, no recognition, no surprise, no emotion at all. But his jaw tightened. He knew. I was told we needed a verbal confirmation, he said in Korean, his voice low and controlled. For the international guests, my fiancé's family wants assurance regarding certain medical matters. Zainab's thumb dug deeper into the folder edge. She could feel her pulse in her throat. Of course, she managed. I'll verify the document. He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, expensive, subtle, unchanged, close enough that she could see the thin watch on his wrist, the only jewelry he ever wore. Good, he said, because accuracy matters, especially in translation, especially when records are permanent. It wasn't a request. It was a warning wrapped in courtesy. The coordinator appeared with a microphone. The family is ready. Just a brief statement, Ms. Kalu, in Korean and English. Very straightforward. Zainab stood. Her legs felt distant, disconnected. Through the silk screen, she could see the ceremony hall filling with guests, politicians, business leaders, women in hanbok worth more than her yearly salary. Cameras. So many cameras. Han Jae-won's wedding was a performance, and she'd been cast as the witness to his greatest lie. She stepped toward the screen, and Jae-won's hand moved, just slightly, just enough to block her path for half a second. "Ms. Kalu." His voice dropped lower. "I assume we understand each other." She met his eyes, cold, calculated, the same eyes that had once looked at her with something almost like tenderness, back when she was naive enough to believe powerful men told the truth. "Perfectly," she whispered. He stepped aside. The coordinator handed her the microphone, and suddenly Zainab was standing in front of 300 people, holding a document that could destroy everything, or save it. If you've ever felt caught between truth and survival, you're not alone in this moment. Stay close. The medical file felt like fire in her hands. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began in Korean, her voice steady despite the earthquake inside her chest. "I have been asked to verify an international medical document regarding Mr. Han Jae-won's reproductive health status." Silence. The kind that presses against your ears. She could see Jae-won in her peripheral vision, perfectly still. She could see the cameras, red lights blinking. And somewhere in Itaewon, her twins were doing homework, unaware that their entire future was balanced on her next breath. The document trembled in her hands. One word, one pause, one deliberate mistranslation, and she could flag the discrepancy. She could crack the foundation of his lie right here, right now, in front of witnesses who mattered. Or she could translate it faithfully, seal the lie forever, protect herself, protect her children. Her thumb pressed harder into the folder edge until pain clarified everything. "The document," she continued, "confirms that Mr. Han Jae-won was diagnosed with irreversible infertility in—" She paused, just for a second, just long enough for Jae-won's jaw to tighten again, just long enough to decide whether truth was worth dying for. "In March of 2016, following comprehensive medical evaluation." The words left her mouth like stones dropping into still water. Clean, accurate, fatal. Zainab finished the translation in English, her voice never wavering, her hands steady now that the decision was made. She'd chosen silence. Again. The same choice she'd made 9 years ago, the same choice she made every morning when she braided her hair and told herself that invisibility was survival. The coordinator took the microphone back with a practiced smile. Polite applause rippled through the crowd. Jae-won's face remained expressionless, but something shifted in his posture, a release of tension so slight that only someone who'd once known his body would notice. He nodded once. Permission to leave. Zainab walked through the silk screen, past the alcove toward the service exit. Her legs moved automatically, carrying her through corridors lined with white orchids and staff who didn't look at her. She was just the translator. Already forgotten. She made it to the parking garage before her hands started shaking again. Her phone buzzed. "Mirella. How'd it go? You okay?" Zainab stared at the message. "How did you explain that you just buried your children's future in front of 300 witnesses?" "How did you text back? I chose wrong and I'll choose wrong again tomorrow because I'm terrified." She typed, "Fine. Heading home." Another buzz. "Liar. Come to the shop. I made jollof." Despite everything, Zainab almost smiled. Mirella's kitchen in Itaewon was the only place in Seoul that felt like safety. Cramped, loud, smelling of palm oil and Scotch bonnet peppers, always full of people who understood what it meant to exist in the margins. She was halfway there when her phone rang. Unknown number. Her thumb hovered over the decline button, but something made her answer. "Miss Kalu," a man's voice, familiar. Korean accent, but careful, respectful. "This is Seo Dae-shik. We met last year regarding your visa renewal." The lawyer, the one who'd helped her navigate the certification process, who spoke slowly enough for her to catch every nuance, who never made her feel stupid for asking questions. Yes, I remember. I apologize for calling on the weekend. He sounded genuinely sorry. But something's come to my attention that might concern you. Could we meet? Perhaps tomorrow? My office or somewhere you feel comfortable? Zainab's grip tightened on the phone. What kind of something? A pause. Too long. It's regarding documentation, legal records that may affect your family's status in Korea. I'd rather discuss it in person. Her heart stuttered. What records? Ms. Kalu, I'm trying to help you. His voice dropped, almost paternal. But there are people asking questions about births registered in Itaewon 9 years ago, about medical translations that don't quite match official files. I need you to trust me. The parking garage suddenly felt too open, too exposed. Cameras everywhere. She could hear her own breathing echoing off concrete. I'll call you back, she whispered. She hung up before he could respond. Her hands were shaking again, worse now. Someone was asking questions, someone was digging. And Seo De-shik, helpful, trustworthy Seo De-shik, knew enough to be dangerous. She drove to Itaewon on autopilot, her mind racing through possibilities. Had someone at the wedding recognized her? Had one of Jae-won's men followed her all these years? Had she been watched this entire time, her silence mistaken for compliance instead of terror? Morella's shop was tucked between a halal butcher and a phone repair store, marked only by a faded sign that said, M's Kitchen, best Naija food in Seoul. Zainab parked illegally and climbed the narrow stairs to the second floor. The smell of jollof rice hit her before she opened the door. Tomatoes, thyme, bay leaves, home. Morella stood at the stove, her natural curls wrapped in a gold silk scarf, humming along to Afro beats playing from a phone propped on the counter. There she is, Morella turned, wooden spoon in hand. Looking like death warmed over. Sit. Zainab collapsed into a chair. Morella, food first, crisis second. That's the rule. But Morella's eyes were sharp, already reading the panic in Zainab's face. She dished out rice and chicken, poured water, then sat down across from her. Talk. Zainab told her everything. The wedding, the medical file, Jae-won's warning, Seo De-shik's call. The words spilled out in a mixture of English and Igbo, her voice breaking on the edges. Morella listened without interrupting, her expression hardening with each detail. When Zainab finished, Morella set down her spoon with deliberate care. That lawyer, she said quietly. Seo De-shik, you trust him? I thought I did. But, Zainab pressed her palms against the table, he knew too much about the births, about the translations. How would he know unless someone told him? Morella's jaw tightened. Or unless he's been looking. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of implications settling between them. Sometimes the people who walk with us understand the weight we carry. If this story feels real to you, let it remind you you're not watching alone. Zainab. Morella reached across the table, gripping her hand. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. That birth certificate, the one I helped you hide, is it still where we left it? Zainab nodded. In the safety deposit box. Why? Morella's phone buzzed, then buzzed again, and again. She glanced at the screen and her face went pale. What? Zainab's voice cracked. What is it? Morella turned the phone around. A group chat, the Itaewon African Mothers Network, 53 members. And scrolling up through the messages, Zainab saw her own name repeated over and over. Someone's asking about Zainab's twins. Man came to the Jilbang asking about mixed kids, birthmarks. Sister, be careful. People are talking. Who's the father? Why now? Zainab's vision tunneled. The Jim Jilbang. The women there had helped her during the pregnancy, had recognized the distinctive birthmark both twins carried, a small crescent moon on their left shoulders. They'd kept her secret for 9 years. Now someone was excavating that silence. Who? Zainab whispered. Who's asking? Morella scrolled further. The messages started 2 hours ago, right after your wedding job. 2 hours, right after she'd sealed the lie, right after she'd walked away. This wasn't coincidence. It's him, Zainab breathed. Jaewon, he's making sure there's no evidence, no witnesses, no... Or it's not him. Morella's voice was sharp. Maybe it's someone who wants to use the evidence, someone who profits from chaos. They stared at each other. Seo Dai-shik, the lawyer who helped foreigners navigate impossible systems, who knew exactly which records mattered and where bodies were buried, who'd called her within hours of the wedding, offering help she hadn't asked for. Zainab's phone buzzed, another unknown number. She answered without thinking. Ms. Kalu, a different voice this time, female, cold. You left the wedding very quickly. Mr. Han would like to speak with you. I don't. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., the coffee shop across from Seoul Central District Court. Come alone, or we'll assume you have something to hide. The line went dead. Zainab set the phone down carefully, as if it might explode. Morella was already standing, pacing. No, absolutely not. You don't go anywhere near that man. I don't have a choice. You always have a choice. Do I? Zainab's voice rose. Someone's hunting for evidence. Someone's threatening my children. And the only person who knows the full truth is the man who has every reason to erase us. So you walk into his trap? So I find out what he knows. They were both breathing hard now, the small kitchen suddenly too small. Morella's phone buzzed again. She glanced down and her expression shifted from anger to something worse. Fear. What? Zainab demanded. Morella showed her the screen. A photo. Grainy, taken from a distance. 2 children walking home from school in their uniforms, backpacks bouncing. Her twins. And below the photo, a message in the group chat from an unknown number. Beautiful children. Would be a shame if their story became public. Zainab didn't sleep. She sat at Morella's kitchen table until dawn, watching her phone like it was a loaded weapon, waiting for another message that never came. At 9:47 a.m., she stood outside the coffee shop across from Seoul Central District Court, her leather folder pressed against her chest like armor. The morning was cold, gray clouds threatening rain. Professionals in dark suits hurried past, briefcases swinging, nobody looking at the African woman standing too still on the sidewalk. She could run, take the twins and disappear into another city, another country. People did it all the time. But Morella's voice echoed in her head from the night before. Running just means they hunt you. At least here we know the territory. Zainab pushed open the coffee shop door. Han Jae-won sat in the back corner, away from the windows. Same black suit, same expressionless face, same thin watch catching the fluorescent light. A cup of untouched Americano sat in front of him. He didn't stand when she approached. Sit. Not a request. Zainab sat, her hands folded over the folder in her lap, thumb finding the worn edge automatically. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The coffee shop hummed with morning noise, espresso machines hissing, ceramic clinking, conversations blurring into white noise. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that 2 ghosts were negotiating survival 3 tables away. You translated correctly yesterday, Jae-won finally said. His Korean was precise, aristocratic. I appreciate that. I translated accurately. Zainab kept her voice steady. That's my job. Is it? He tilted his head slightly, studying her. I thought your job was staying invisible. You've done well at that. 9 years, very disciplined. Her throat tightened. What do you want? The same thing you want. Clean answers. No complications. He leaned forward just slightly. Someone is trying to create a problem that doesn't exist. Someone sent you that photo last night. I need to know who. Zainab's pulse quickened. You're saying it wasn't you? If I wanted to threaten your children, Ms. Kalu, you wouldn't receive a warning photo. You'd receive a hospital bill. His eyes were flat, matter of fact. I don't make threats. I solve problems permanently. The honesty was somehow more terrifying than any threat. Then who? She whispered. That's what I'm asking you. Jae-won's jaw tightened, the only crack in his composure. Who else knows? Who did you tell? No one. Just, she stopped. Just. Zainab's mind raced. Mirella knew, but Mirella would never. The women at the Jim Jilbang knew pieces, but not the whole truth. The clinic where she'd given birth had closed years ago. The only other person who touched the paperwork was Seo Dae-shik, she breathed. Jae-won's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Recognition. The lawyer, he said slowly. The one who helps migrants. The one who's very good at making problems disappear for the right price. He called me yesterday, right after the wedding. He said people were asking questions about birth records. Did he? Jae-won's voice went quieter, which somehow made it more dangerous. And what did you tell him? Nothing. I didn't. I hung up. Jae-won pulled out his phone, typed something quickly, then set it face down on the table. Seo Dae-shik has been busy. Very busy. Making copies of documents he shouldn't have access to. Asking questions in places he shouldn't know about. Building a file. On me? On us. Jae-won's eyes locked onto hers. He's selling information, Ms. Kalu, to my rivals, to prosecutors, to anyone who might pay for proof that the infertile underboss has an heir. The coffee shop tilted. Zainab gripped the edge of the table. But how would he even— You tell me. Did you hire him? Did you show him documents? He helped with my translator certification, visa paperwork. I never mentioned— You didn't have to. Jae-won's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his jaw tightened again. He's smart. He listens. He watches. And apparently he kept copies of everything that crossed his desk. Every story needs witnesses. If you're still here watching this unfold, you're part of what makes truth matter. Stay with us. Zainab's hands were shaking now. What does he want? Leverage, protection, money, power, the same things everyone wants. Jae-won stood abruptly. Come with me. Where? Somewhere we can talk without cameras. Every instinct screamed at her to refuse, to run, to call Mirella. But Jae-won was already walking toward a back exit, and somehow Zainab found herself following, her body moving before her mind could catch up. They walked 2 blocks in silence, then entered a building through a service entrance. No signs, no guards, just gray concrete and fluorescent lights. Jae-won led her down a hallway to an unmarked door, which opened into a small office. Empty desk, filing cabinet, single window overlooking an alley. This is one of Seo Dae-shik's side offices, Jae-won said, gesturing around. He doesn't know I know about it. Sit. Zainab remained standing. How long have you been watching me? Since the beginning. He said it like he was commenting on the weather. Did you think I wouldn't notice when the translator who helped bury my medical file disappeared into Itaewon pregnant? Did you think I wouldn't keep track of loose threads? Then why didn't you— Do what? Eliminate you? Eliminate them? For the first time, something like emotion crossed his face. I'm not my father, Ms. Kalu. I don't kill children. I just make sure they don't become problems. They're not problems. They're people. In my world, those are the same thing. The filing cabinet drawer opened with a metallic scrape. Jae-won pulled out a folder, opened it on the desk. Zainab's breath stopped. Photographs, dozens of them. Her twins at school, at the park, at Mirella's kitchen, at the Jim Jilbang. Growing up in careful documentation, their lives catalogued by strangers with cameras. "You've been watching them," her voice cracked. "All this time. Monitoring, not threatening. There's a difference." Jae-won flipped through the photos with clinical detachment. "I needed to know they were safe, healthy, normal, that you weren't preparing to use them as leverage. I would never. Everyone leverages eventually. It's human nature." He pulled out another document. "But you didn't. You stayed quiet. You raised them well. You kept them away from my world. For that, I'm grateful." The word sounded foreign in his mouth. Zainab stared at the photographs. 9 years of her children's lives stolen and filed away. "Why are you showing me this?" she whispered. "Because Seo Dae-shik has copies of all of it. And more." Jae-won pulled out his phone again, pulled up a photo, turned it toward her. A birth certificate, official seal, both children's names, father's name, Han Jae-won. "That's not possible," Zainab breathed. "I never filed it. I never—" "You didn't, but someone did. Someone reconstructed it from hospital records, clinic notes, witness statements. Someone very thorough." Jae-won's voice was ice. "Seo Dae-shik has been building a legal case for months, and yesterday he sold the preliminary file to the Busan faction." The Busan faction. Jae-won's rivals. The ones who'd kill for proof that the supposedly infertile underboss had blood heirs. "He's going to release it publicly," Zainab whispered. "Isn't he? Worse, he's going to sell it to the highest bidder, prosecution, rival families, media. Whoever pays most for the story of the African translator and the crime lord's secret children." Zainab's legs gave out. She sat down hard in the chair. "My children will become targets from every direction, people who want to kill them to hurt me, people who want to use them to control me, people who want to parade them in court as evidence." Jae-won's voice never wavered. "Unless we stop him first." "We? You want your children safe. I want my lie protected. For once, Ms. Kalu, our interests align." Zainab looked up at him. This man who'd abandoned her, who'd let her struggle alone for 9 years, who'd watched her children grow up through surveillance photos instead of birthday parties. "What are you proposing?" Jae-won sat on the edge of the desk. Seo Dae-shik's weakness is greed. He's playing multiple sides, selling information in pieces to keep everyone bidding. But he hasn't released the full file yet. He's waiting for the price to go high enough. So we give him exactly what he wants. We bring him the original birth certificate, the one you've been hiding. We tell him we're ready to cooperate. We make him think he's won. Jae-won's eyes were cold, calculating. And then we find out who else he's sold to, what copies exist, and how deep this goes. You want to use me as bait. I want to use both of us as bait. He thinks I don't know he's betrayed me. He thinks you're alone and vulnerable. We use those assumptions." Zainab's mind raced. "And then what? After we find out?" Jae-won didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was very quiet. "Then I solve the problem. Permanently." "You mean kill him?" "I mean make sure this conversation never happened. Make sure those documents never existed. Make sure your children can grow up anonymous and alive." He stood. "But I need that original birth certificate, the one in your safety deposit box. Without it, we have no leverage. With it, we control the narrative." Zainab closed her eyes. She could see Mirella's face, warning her. She could hear her own voice from 9 years ago, promising herself she'd never let this man into her life again. but she could also see her twins walking home from school, unaware of the cameras. "If I give you the certificate," she said slowly, "how do I know you won't just destroy it and erase us anyway?" "You don't." Jae-won's honesty was brutal. "But right now, Ms. Kalu, I'm the only thing standing between your children and a very public, very violent exposure. Seo Da-shik wants a story. I want silence. Choose." Her phone buzzed. She looked down. "Mirella, don't trust him." And below that, a photo. Seo Da-shik leaving the courthouse. And walking beside him, a man Zainab recognized from the wedding. One of Jae-won's security team. She showed Jae-won the photo. His expression went very, very still. "He's flipped one of my men." Jae-won's voice was barely a whisper, but the rage beneath it was molten. That's how he got the surveillance photos. That's how he knew about the wedding. Zainab stood, her chair scraping against the floor. "I need to get my children, right now." "They're already safe." Jae-won was typing rapidly on his phone. "I had them moved to a secure location an hour ago. Your friend Mirella is with them." "You what?" Panic flooded her chest. "You took my children?" "I protected them. There's a difference." He looked up, and for the first time she saw something almost like desperation in his eyes. Seo Da-shik knows he's running out of time. When cornered rats realize the ship is sinking, they bite everything in reach. Your children were the closest target. Zainab's phone rang. "Mirella," she answered, hands shaking. "Are they—" "They're fine, we're fine." Mirella's voice was tight but controlled. "We're in some apartment in Gangnam. There are 4 very polite men with guns making us breakfast. Your twins think it's an adventure." "Let me talk to them." Shuffling sounds. Then her daughter's voice, bright and unconcerned. "Oma, there's a pool. Can we swim later?" Zainab's throat closed. "Baby, I need you to listen to me. Stay with Auntie Mirella. Do everything she says. I'll be there soon." "Okay, the ajushi is making pancakes. He's really bad at it." Despite everything, Zainab almost laughed. "I love you, both of you." "Love you too." Mirella came back on the line. "Zainab, whatever you're planning, think it through. These people, I know what they are." "Do you?" Mirella's voice dropped. "Because the man who ordered your protection is the same man who could order your execution. Don't forget that." The line went dead. Jae-won was watching her. "The birth certificate. I need it now. It's in a safety deposit box at the bank near Dongdaemun." "Then we go. Now." They took his car, a black sedan with tinted windows and a driver who didn't speak. The city blurred past, Sunday morning Seoul waking up slowly. Zainab watched the streets scroll by and tried to remember when her life had last felt simple. 9 years ago, maybe, before the pregnancy test, before the late-night confession that Jae-won wouldn't acknowledge the child, before she'd learned that powerful men kept their power by erasing inconvenient truths. "Why didn't you just pay me to disappear?" she asked suddenly. 9 years ago, why didn't you just give me money and send me away?" Jae-won stared out the window. "Would you have gone?" "Yes." "Liar." He turned to look at her. "You stayed because you're stubborn. Because you wanted your children to grow up Korean, to belong somewhere. Because running meant admitting defeat." He paused. "We're more alike than you want to admit, Ms. Kalu. We're nothing alike, aren't we? We both built our lives on careful lies. We both chose silence over truth. We both believed we could control the story." His voice softened just slightly. "We were both wrong." The bank appeared ahead. Zainab's hands were sweating. They walked in together, and the manager's professional smile faltered when he saw Jae-won. People recognized him, even when they pretended not to. Power had a face, and Seoul's Underboss wore it well. "I need to access my safety deposit box," Zainab said in Korean, her voice steady. "Of course. Right this way." The vault was in the basement, cold, fluorescent lights humming, rows of metal boxes behind a gate that required 2 keys. The manager inserted his key. Zainab inserted hers. The box slid out with a metallic whisper. Inside, a single manila envelope, unsealed, waiting. Zainab pulled it out, and for a moment she just held it. 9 years of running, condensed into one piece of paper. Her children's legitimacy, their danger, their future. Every ending is also a beginning. If you've stayed with us through this moment, you understand what it means to witness someone stand at the edge of everything. We see you. Jae-won didn't reach for it. He just waited. "If I give this to you," Zainab whispered, "you'll use it as bait. And then what? You kill Seo Dashik. You destroy the copies. But my children will still be yours. They'll still have your blood. They'll still be targets." "Yes." Jae-won's voice was quiet. "That doesn't change. Whether this document exists or not, they're mine. And in my world, that's a curse, not a blessing." "Then why do you care if people know?" For a long moment, he didn't answer. When he did, his voice carried something she'd never heard before. Regret, maybe, or fear. "Because if my family knows they exist, they'll use them as heirs, as pawns, as leverage against me, and I've spent 9 years keeping them free from that." He met her eyes. "You think I watched them to threaten you? I watched them to make sure no one else found them first." Zainab's hands trembled. "That's not protection. That's surveillance. In my world, they're the same thing." The lights flickered. Both of them looked up. Flickered again, then died completely. Emergency lighting kicked in, dim red glow, barely enough to see. "What?" Zainab started. Jae-won's hand went to his jacket. He pulled out his phone. No signal. "Blackout," he said. "Courthouse is 2 blocks away. This isn't coincidence." The vault door was still open. Through it, Zainab could hear raised voices. Confusion. The manager shouting something about backup generators. Jae-won grabbed her arm. "We need to leave, now." But Zainab stood frozen, staring at the envelope in her hands. The courthouse, 2 blocks away, where legal records were processed, where documents became official, where truth became permanent. "Or," she whispered, "I run." Jae-won's grip tightened. "You won't make it 3 blocks. Your men are with my children. You need this document, which means right now I have leverage." His eyes narrowed. "Miss Kalu, let go of me." For 3 heartbeats, they stood in the red-lit vault, everything balanced on a knife's edge. Then Jae-won released her arm. "If you run," he said quietly, "Seo Dae-shik wins. He releases what he has. Your children become famous." Every news outlet in Korea runs the story of the African translator and the crime lord's secret heirs. And then what? You kill me? You kill them? "No." Jae-won's voice was tired. "Then I lose my leverage. My rivals move against me. The succession war I've avoided for a decade starts tomorrow, and your children are caught in the middle of it, whether they're legally mine or not." Zainab's thumb pressed into the envelope's edge. The paper was thick, official, stamped with seals that meant legitimacy, recognition, existence. Everything she'd wanted for 9 years, everything that could kill them. The emergency lights flickered. "I could submit it," she breathed. "Right now, during the blackout, while the systems are confused. I could make them legally real." "You could," Jae-won agreed. "And then what? You think a piece of paper protects them? You think legal recognition stops bullets? It stops erasure." "Does it?" He stepped closer, voice dropping. Or does it just make them easier to find? Footsteps in the hallway above. Running. Someone shouting about getting customers out. Zainab looked down at the envelope. Her hands were shaking so hard the paper rattled. She thought about her twins, swimming in some stranger's pool, eating burnt pancakes, laughing like children who didn't know they were bargaining chips. She thought about Mirella, who'd hidden her pregnancy and asked for nothing in return except honesty. She thought about 9 years of silence, 9 years of making herself invisible, 9 years of believing that if she just stayed quiet enough, stayed small enough, her children could grow up normal. But there was no normal. Not for them. Not anymore. The envelope felt like fire. What if, she said slowly, there was another option? Jae-won waited. What if the document was submitted, legally, officially, but not by me? She looked up at him. What if you claimed them? Publicly, deliberately, as your choice, not mine. His expression went very still. You'd be the one controlling the narrative, Zainab continued, words coming faster now. Not Seo Dae-shik, not your rivals. You, the infertile underboss who suddenly discovers he has heirs on your terms, your timing, your power. That's insane. Is it? Or is it the only move Seo Dae-shik won't expect? She stepped closer. He's selling secrets. But what if there's no secret left to sell? What if you expose yourself first? Jae-won's jaw tightened. He was thinking, calculating, running probabilities. If I claim them, he said slowly, they become legitimate targets. Every rival, every prosecutor, they're already targets. You said so yourself. At least this way they have your protection officially, your name, your resources. And you? What do you get? Zainab smiled, and it was bitter and bright. I get to stop hiding. I get to stop translating other people's pain and pretending I don't have my own. I get to exist. The lights flickered again. Somewhere above, a generator coughed to life. Jae-won held out his hand. Give me the certificate. Zainab hesitated. This was it. The moment. The choice that would rewrite everything. She thought about Mirella's warning. Don't trust him. She thought about her twins. Can we swim later? She thought about Seo Dae-shik selling pieces of her life to the highest bidder. She thought about 9 years of silence. And then she thought about what her mother used to say in Igbo. Eziokwu na eweta udo. Truth brings peace, not safety. Peace. She placed the envelope in Jae-won's hand. He opened it, pulled out the birth certificate, stared at it in the red emergency light, his children's names, his name, official seals, undeniable proof. If I do this, he said quietly, there's no going back. For any of us. There was never any going back. Jae-won pulled out his phone. No signal still, but he typed something anyway, cueing it. When the power returns, he said, this gets filed at the courthouse, official record, and simultaneously I make an announcement, a press conference. The underboss acknowledges his heirs, medical miracle, personal statement, carefully controlled narrative, and Seo Dae-shik becomes irrelevant, can't sell a secret that's already public. Jae-won's smile was cold. And then I deal with him separately. You're going to kill him. I'm going to make sure he understands the cost of betrayal. The lights came back on, full fluorescent brightness, harsh and sudden. Jae-won's phone buzzed, signal restored. He looked at her one more time. Last chance. We can still walk away, destroy this, go back to silence. Zainab thought about her twins, about Mirella, about 9 years of living like a ghost. No, she said. File it. Jae-won pressed send. Somewhere in Seoul Central District Court, systems were coming back online. Documents were being processed, records were being updated. And in that same moment, Jae-won made a call. "Prepare the statement," he said in Korean. "I'm acknowledging paternity. Yes, 2 children, African mother, full legal recognition." He paused. "And find Seo Dai-shik. I want him in my office in 1 hour." He hung up, looked at Zainab. "It's done." Zainab's legs felt weak. She sat down on the vault floor, back against the cold metal boxes. What happens now? Now? Jae-won helped her up, and the gesture was almost gentle. "Now we go get your children. We tell them the truth, and then we prepare for war. War. Every rival will test me. Every prosecutor will investigate. Every journalist will dig. This will be the story of the year." His voice was matter of fact. "But they'll be safe, protected, legitimate. And you? I'll be visible. Yes, for better or worse." They walked out of the vault together. The bank manager was apologizing profusely about the power outage. Other customers were being escorted out. Everything was returning to normal, except nothing would ever be normal again. Outside, the Seoul morning was bright and cold. Jae-won's car was waiting. Zainab's phone buzzed. "Mirella, what did you do?" "I chose truth," Zainab typed back. "I'll explain everything. I'm coming to get them." "You better be sure about this, sister." "I'm not, but I'm done being silent." She looked at Jae-won, this man who'd abandoned her and watched her and now, impossibly, was claiming their children as his own. "Why are you really doing this?" she asked. He was quiet for a long moment. "Because you were right," he finally said. "They're not problems. They're people. And maybe—" He stopped, jaw working. "Maybe I'm tired of erasing things too." It wasn't love. It wasn't redemption. It was just honesty, raw and uncomfortable. But it was a start. The car drove through Seoul, carrying them toward Gangnam, toward the twins, toward whatever came next. Zainab closed her eyes and felt the sun on her face through the window. For 9 years, she'd been invisible. Now the whole world was about to see her. If this story moved you, if you've walked with Zainab from silence to truth, then you understand what it means to witness transformation. Stories like these exist because people like you choose to see them. We'll be here, telling more stories that matter. Until next time. And somewhere in Seoul, in a courthouse filing room, a birth certificate was being scanned into the system. 2 names, 1 father, official record. The truth, finally visible. The lie, finally dead. And Zainab Kalu, translator of other people's pain, finally speaking her own story in her own voice. No more silence.